Hello everyone, Box Gods here, and welcome to our how-to series covering Monsoon's modular reservoir system. Today is video number 7 in that series, and we're going to be covering the standalone pump, like this one. The fittings aren't included, I just put them on there to show you how nice the fittings look and that they match the metal parts of the pump. Your pump would come out of your box basically just like this, sans the fittings. Today we're going to be covering how to install your D5 pump head into this and how to install this into your case. First thing you're going to want to do is take your D5 donor pump, probably looks a lot like this one, and you're going to remove the motor. You do that by unscrewing this ring. It pops off. You're going to see an O-ring in there. You want to keep that O-ring, which isn't wanting to come out. Obviously don't damage when you take it out. Like that. Now that I've dropped it on the floor, make sure you clean it off before you put it back in your pump, obviously. Alright, I'll set this aside for now. Remove the cord through the ring. Obviously if you're using a beautiful high-end pump like this, you're going to want to sleeve the cord of this, but for the purposes of our installation video today, we're just going to leave it like it is. The first step is to use the smaller of the two included hex wrenches and remove the back cover. For those of you that aren't familiar with the pattern that's on there, that is the Maltese cross. Just something to add a little bit of pop to it. After the cover pops off, you notice there's a pad in there that's a foam pad to help with sound insulation. The motor mounting tube is machined from aluminum and it has these fins in it. The purpose of those, besides to look very nice, is to actually draw a little bit of heat away from the pump and prevent it from being transmitted into your cooling loop, which basically defeats the purpose. You're going to want to remove this ring. To feed the cord through. So that you basically have a situation like that. I want to take your O-ring and again make sure that it's clean and lint free. Examine the surface in there, make sure it's clean and lint free. The O-ring goes inside. When you're installing this, you want to make sure that you don't cross thread the threads, because you can damage the threads. As I'm putting that on, I feel that it's a little tight. As you look, you can see that it's at an angle, so I'm going to back this out. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, and I'm back out until I hear a click. That click means I've got it lined up straight. I'm just going to start tightening it down. Before I get too tight, I'm going to determine where I want my cord to exit. Because of the notches on the back of the pump mounting tube cover, you've got two notches there. You can aim this basically anywhere you like to. You want to align it obviously so that you can have the cleanest wiring run possible. So for the purposes of our example today, I'm going to pretend that I want it to come directly out the bottom like that. Start tightening this down. When you tighten the mounting ring down, there's no point in going absolutely crazy. All you need to do is compress the pump, drive the pump into the seal enough to create a seal. If you go any tighter than that, you're basically just making it much harder on yourself to remove this at some point in the future. So as I'm tightening down, I've already felt the contact, and I can feel it compressing a little bit. Basically that's enough right there. I'm going to just give it a little bit more, and that's where we want to be. I'm going to take my cover, put it in place and line it up on the cords, make sure it's pressed down. I'm going to just use my thumb to hold the cover in place. Take my small hex wrench, tighten the cover, the set screw just a little bit. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Again, you don't have to go crazy. You don't want to damage the threads. Alright, that's basically all there is to mounting the pump into the unit itself. On the bottom of the pump, you'll notice that there are these two load spreaders. Their purpose is to, as the name implies, take the weight of the pump that's being mounted into your case panel and spread that load out a little bit so it's not centralized in just two small points. A second purpose they serve is if when you're drilling these holes into your, say the bottom of your case as an example, if you slightly miss, you can take the drill bit and what we call hog out the hole a little bit until everything lines up, and then when you put these in place, basically nobody will know that you had to fudge the holes slightly because it covers everything up nicely. This will demonstrate, this is a simulated case panel, it's not really included with the part. This is how it would look on the bottom of your case if you had mounted this to the bottom as an example, or the side, or wherever you choose to mount it. Again, spreads the loads out, helps cover up any small errors you made with the mounting holes. Before you take the mounting load spreaders off, you might want to determine, this is a good time to determine where you want to install this into your case. Again, for our example, say we were installing it in the bottom of our case. You set the pump into the case and maneuver it around until you've got it to where you want it, once you've made that decision. For our example, again, this is the bottom of the case. Pretend this is the front edge of the case. Take a measuring tape or some kind of ruler and measure from the front edge of the case back to the front edge of the mount, which is 7 inches in our example. I've got some scrap paper. I would draw the basic shape of my case. Say for this example we're building a cube case, and the front edge dimension I just got was 7 inches. While I had that in place, again for the purpose of our example, let's just pretend this is the bottom of the case. I would measure over to that first hole, see that it's 4 inches. I'd write my 4 inches there. Just keep those numbers handy so you don't forget them. What you would then do is flip the case over onto its top so that you have the bottom of it where you could do your drilling. This includes a drill bit, a 5mm drill bit, and it also includes a template similar to this one that will help you align the holes to make sure that they're correctly spaced, and then to also help you put the pump where you want it located within the case. You would then use your kind of a hint or trick that I use for things like this. I like to take blue painter's tape and then apply several strips of the tape over the area where I'm going to be putting my measurements and drilling my holes. This serves a couple purposes. It keeps the drill bit from skipping around. It keeps you from writing on your case as opposed to writing on the tape. So again, for this example, assume we had put out maybe 6 or 7 layers of tape that covered more than the area where we were going to be installing the pump. I would then transfer my measurements, use the template to make sure it has crosshairs in it basically, and if that'll show. Once you've marked out your holes where you're going to drill, take a towel or an old t-shirt or something and put it inside the case, especially if you've got components already installed in the case. The purpose is to catch the drill filings and stuff as you're drilling into the case. After you've got all your holes drilled, you're going to want to take your pump. It comes assembled like this just to keep everything to fit in the box nicely. You take the larger of the Allen wrenches or hex keys and remove these screws. For the purpose of our example, I'm just going to use, this is a universal driver. I don't know if you've ever used one of these, or it's not necessary, but it speeds you up because it lets you drive the screws at an angle. You're going to want to go ahead and remove these screws. What you're going to do then is, if you are using the bottom of the case and you care about how it lines up, you're going to want to make sure to remember to line up the text so you don't have it upside down or whatever. Obviously it's in the bottom of your case, it's not critical, but also the mounting holes on this have two sets of holes to the left, 2 sets of holes to the right, 2 in the center. That's so that you can mount the pump 60 degrees left, perpendicular, or 60 degrees right. In this example, we're going to use the existing holes. you would, well, I think I have a simulated case panel here I can use. It's going to be a little more difficult because it's flopping around, whereas your case wouldn't, but assume this is our case panel here. Those go in there like that. The mount goes on. Again, this would be a little easier if you were actually using a case because it wouldn't be flopping around like this little panel is, but you get the idea. You're going to want to start the screws, but don't tighten them all the way, because if you have missed a slight misalignment or anything like that, it'll help you with the other screws. I'm going to repeat the process with this, again making sure I've got the Monsoon upright. Start the screws. Once I've got all the screws started, I know all the holes are close enough that I can then go ahead and start tightening things down. Again, you don't need to over tighten them. This, this isn't being launched into low Earth orbit. It's not going in the Baja 500 or anything. It just needs to be tight enough to not rattle around. You don't want to risk stripping the screws. About like that's fine. Just give them one more double check right there. That's basically your pump mounted in your case. And that's really all there is to it. It's not very complicated. If you have any questions, you can email me at the email address on this screen. I'm happy to answer any questions I can. If you have any questions about installation or component selection, anything that I can help with, I'd be happy to do it. Thanks for watching.